It was supposed to be quiet here. That's what the real estate agent promised. A peaceful cul-de-sac, safe, boring, private. Just what I thought I needed, after 22 months embedded with one of the nastiest drug cartels in the Southwest. Boring sounded like salvation. My name is Ryan Cole, FBI Special Agent, or at least, I was when I bought this place. I wasn't sure if I was still that man. I hadn't touched my badge since the night everything went to hell in Juarez, the night my partner died. So when I moved into 2046 Sparrow Lane, I didn't tell anyone who I was. Not my neighbors, not the HOA, not the nice woman across the street with the golden retriever who waved every morning. No one. I just wanted to disappear for a while. The house was simple, 2 stories. Brick and white siding, a front lawn that needed mowing more often than I liked, and a small back patio that smelled like honeysuckle every morning. It had a quiet, lived-in charm. I spent my first few weeks inside, reading, sleeping, drinking too much coffee. I went out only for groceries and evening runs around the block. My therapist called it decompression. I called it surviving. Then the notes started coming. It began smaller piece of paper tucked under my windshield. White, printed, no signature. Violation, trash bins left visible past 10 a.m. Fine, $25 courtesy notice from the Oak Ridge HOA. I didn't think much of it at first. I figured it was real. Some neighborhoods took their lawn appearances as seriously as national security. I paid the fine. A week later, another notice. This time taped to my front door. Violation, lawn height exceeds regulation by 2 inches. Fine, $40 okay. Maybe I'd forgotten the grass. My fault, I let it go. Then it got weird. 3 days later, I was drinking coffee in my kitchen when I noticed them 2 men in navy blue polo shirts walking door to door with clipboards. They weren't postal workers. Not utility company guys either. They were young, clean-shaven, fit.military-fit. They stopped in front of my house, wrote something down, then looked up and stared through the window. I stared back. The taller one raised his hand in a halfway of half salute. Then they turned and walked off. Something about them felt off. Their movements were too precise. Their shirts read OAK Ridge, HOA Patrol in blocky white font, HOA Patrol. I'd lived in HOA neighborhoods before there were boards, committees, busybody neighbors with too much free time. But patrols. I checked the official Oak Ridge HOA website. It hadn't been updated in over 3 years. No names, no contact number, no record of these violations. No mention of any patrol. That night, I heard the knock. It was just after 9 p.m. I was in the garage, tightening the chain on my bike, when I heard 2 sharp raps on the front door. I stepped out of the garage and walked around. 2 men, same guys from earlier. This time, one had a handheld scanner. The other carried a small black binder. Evening, said the taller one. We're conducting a standard compliance audit. He held up a laminated ID badge. It looked official if you didn't know what to look for. I did. No holographic seal. No raised print. No agency stamp. Fakey Ryan Cole. The shorter one asked, eyes flicking over my shoulder into the house. Who wants to know? I asked, keeping my voice neutral. We're with Oak Ridge Enforcement. The tall one replied, we received multiple complaints about exterior violations and a non-compliant garage layout. I raised an eyebrow. A what? Garage layout, he repeated, like it made perfect sense. We'll need to do a walkthrough. I leaned against the doorframe, crossed my arms. You got a warrant for that? The 2 exchanged a glance. The shorter one smiled. No need for hostility. Sir, we're authorized under HOA article. There is no article. I cut in. And unless you have a real badge and a real reason, you're not stepping inside my house. There was a beat of silence. The air turned thick. Then the tall one said, Sir, failure to comply could result in penalties or detainment. That was it? I reached into my back pocket and slowly pulled out my wallet. I flipped it open, revealing the gold and blue. FBI Special Agent Ryan Cole. They froze. The short one took a half step back. The tall one's mouth twitched. I'm going to need your real names, I said calmly, and you can either provide them now or we can do this downtown. But before I could grab my phone, they turned and jogged down the street. Gone. I called the local police. They took a report, promised to look into it. 3 days passed. Nothing happened, but something had shifted. I wasn't hiding anymore, I was watching. The next day, I saw them again 2 blocks over, talking to an elderly couple who looked scared. They didn't see me. I tailed them from a distance as they got into a black SUV with no plates. I got the partial plate number off the dash cam. The next morning, someone had broken into my mailbox. The warning was clear, but they didn't know who they were dealing with. The neighborhood began to whisper. I met Maria and her son, Nico, when I found him crying on the sidewalk. His soccer ball had been confiscated by the HOA guys for being left on common property. Maria was furious, but scared. They came to the door at night. She whispered, said if I didn't pay the fine, they'd put a lien on the house. I didn't even know they were real. They're not, I told her. She looked at me, searching my face. Then who are they? That was the million-dollar question. Who were these men pretending to be HOA cops? And why were they targeting this neighborhood? I didn't know yet, but I was going to find out. I started digging. I pulled surveillance from traffic cams, tracked the SUV through 3 neighborhoods. I cross-referenced footage with old HOA records. The more I looked, the stranger it got. 3 other neighborhoods, same patterns. Unregistered HOAs, anonymous violations, disappearances, a missing veteran in Brookside, a family forced to sell. In Hazelwood, a woman in Oak Pine found in violation 3 days before her house burned down. All linked to enforcers, who matched the ones I'd seen. This wasn't just a scam, this was a network. Late one night, I came home to find my front door ajar. I entered slowly, Glock drawn. The house was quiet, too quiet. Drawers were open, files dumped, my badge and gun safe untouched, but my FBI laptop was gone. I found a note on my kitchen table. Stay out of this, Agent Cole. Or next time, we collect more than trash bins. I crumpled the note in my fist. The war was coming to Sparrow Lane. They had no idea who they'd picked a fight with. Asterisk. It's funny how quickly a quiet street can turn into a battlefield. When I first moved to Sparrow Lane, I thought I was leaving that part of my life behind. Surveillance, threats, paranoia. But now, every hedge, every neighbor's glance, every engine starting down the block felt like a signal. I wasn't just recovering anymore, I was investigating. And whoever these imposters were, they knew I was onto them. The morning after the break-in, I visited Maria. She answered the door, holding her son, Nico, close. Her eyes were red. She looked like she hadn't slept. Did something happen? I asked gently. She nodded, clutching Nico tighter. They came last night. My jaw tightened. What did they say? They knocked at 2 a.m., said they saw you talking to me, that I should mind my own property if I didn't want things to escalate. I stepped inside without waiting. Her house was small but tidy. Toys scattered in the living room, dishes drying on the counter. Normal, warm. Now invaded. Did they do anything? Touch anything? They took Nico's bike, left a note, said I'd been issued a 3rd violation and I'd be fined or evicted. I picked up the note from her kitchen table. It had the same formatting as the others, same fake seal. But the language had changed. Final notice, 3rd violation. Property flagged. Enforcement pending. Failure to comply may result in asset seizure. I scanned the bottom. No phone number, no name. Just an emblem with Oak Ridge, HOA, and a broken scale logo. Maria, listen to me carefully. I said, you didn't do anything wrong. These men aren't part of any HOA. They're criminals, organized, trained. This is more than harassment, it's coercion, extortion, maybe worse. She looked up at me, tears forming. I don't want to lose my home. Ryan, Nico's school. Our life is here. You won't, I promised. I won't let them. I knew I needed help, and I knew exactly who to call. Agent. Julia Park was the closest thing I had to family in the bureau. We'd trained together, deployed together. She was smart, methodical, and didn't ask questions unless she already had the answer. I hadn't spoken to her in 6 months, not since the Mexico mission went sideways, but when she picked up the phone, her voice was steady. Ryan, hey, Jules, a pause. Are you okay? Not exactly. We met at a diner off Route 12, 15 miles from my neighborhood. Asterisk, she wore civilian clothes. But she had that sharp look in her eyes, the one that said she was already running a dozen risk scenarios. You look like hell, she said, sliding into the booth. Feel like it. I handed her a folder with copies of the fake notices, the SUV license snapshot, and some notes I'd compiled. She flipped through it quickly, then stopped. Hold up, these names, I don't have real IDs yet, just images from my security cam. She tapped the page. No, I recognize one of them. Tall guy with the crew cut. I nodded. James Kellen, ex-Army Ranger, went private. Disappeared after a messy PMC shutdown 2 years ago. He's supposed to be in South America. Looks like he's back. Asterisk, she kept flipping. Her expression darkened. This isn't just one group, she said. I've seen versions of this before. They pop up like cancer, use fake HOAs to control neighborhoods, charge fines, seize homes, even traffic people under the guise of eviction compliance. You think it's a ring? I think it's a franchise. Julia agreed to run a full background sweep, starting with the SUV and digital signatures on the printouts. In return, I promised not to kick down any doors without her. I lied, because that night, the HOA enforcers came back. It was just past 11 when I heard movement near my garage. I killed the lights and slipped out the side door. 2 men. Not Kellen. These were new, younger, less polished. They were trying to install a small black box near the garage sensor. A tracker, a camera, didn't matter. I stepped out behind them. Pistol, drawn. Drop it. They froze. One raised his hands. The other ran. I caught him before he hit the edge of the yard. Tackled him hard. Zip-tied his wrists with a cable tie from my belt pouch. The other was still frozen. I turned to him. You can leave now, but I've got your friend. He didn't move, so I stepped closer and growled, "Tell Kellen I'm coming for him." He bolted. The one I'd caught refused to speak. I tied him to a chair in my basement and called Julia. She was not amused. "Ryan, this isn't protocol. This is kidnapping. He was trespassing, tampering with private property. He's lucky I didn't shoot him." She sighed. "Fine, I'll come get him, but you're off the leash after this." I never was on it. Julia arrived with a federal transport van at 2 a.m. She took the guy in, booked him under a material witness clause. She didn't say much, but I saw it in her eyes. Something about this was bigger than either of us thought. I didn't sleep that night, neither did Maria. She called me just after dawn. They're back. This time they were bold. 4 men, all in matching polos, this time with utility belts and zip ties. I got to her house just as one was trying to force open her front door. He saw me and smirked. "You, again, you're trespassing. This property is in default." "No, it isn't." I held up my badge again, but this time, he didn't flinch. "We've reported you to the County Oversight Board," he said flatly. "Impersonating federal agents is a felony." That caught me off guard. They were flipping the script. I am a federal agent. "Then where's your warrant?" I stepped forward. That's when one of them grabbed Maria by the arm, and I snapped. The next 60 seconds were a blur. I moved fast, disarmed the guy grabbing Maria, swept his leg, elbowed another in the throat. One went for his belt, but I drew. Faster, Glock up, aimed squarely. "Back off, now." They hesitated, then retreated. This time, they left behind a message spray-painted in red across Maria's driveway. Nitrogen monoxide outsiders that night. Maria broke down. She begged me to let her leave, to run with Nico and never come back. But I knew the truth. You can't outrun people like this. You have to fight them, and I was done playing nice. I called Julia again. "I need full jurisdiction." "Ryan, that means opening a case, submitting paperwork, going public." "Do it." She paused. "Okay," she said finally. "But you'd better be ready, if this is what I think it is. You're going to war with something much bigger than fake fines and patrol shirts." I looked out my window at the empty street, the flickering street lamp, the black SUV, now parked 2 blocks down. "I'm ready," I said, but even as I said it, a chill ran through me, because I wasn't just fighting for Maria or Nico anymore. Was fighting for the entire block, and the enemy knew where I lived. They crossed a line. It wasn't just about fake fines or harassment anymore. Not when they grabbed Maria. Not when they painted her driveway with threats. And definitely not when I saw them watching Nico's school from a black van the next morning. I'd fought cartel killers, foreign mercenaries, and deep cover betrayal. But this was personal. These bastards weren't hiding anymore. And neither was I. Julia called me before dawn. I got clearance. She said, "We're opening a formal case. I'll be your contact, but we're keeping it off the books for now, limited scope until we can prove jurisdiction." Meaning we're on our own until I can get official warrants. Then I'll give you something to write warrants about. My plan started that afternoon. I needed bait. And unfortunately, I had some. I violated another HOA rule, deliberately left garbage bins on the curb past noon, let the grass overgrow, strung up clotheslines in the front yard. Within 36 hours, they bit. This time, they came armed. I had set up surveillance all around my property to visible cameras and for hidden ones. Julia helped me get facial recognition software plugged into a secure bureau mirror server. The SUV pulled up just after midnight. 4 men. 1 was Kellen. I zoomed in. Same facial scars, same ice-cold stare. Ranger turned private ghost. I watched as they scoped the place. Then, just like that, they walked to the side fence and cut through the latch. I waited until 2 of them stepped into the garage before I flipped the breaker. Pitch black. Then, I hit the floodlights. "FBI, drop your weapons." They froze, but only for a second. One reached for his belt. I fired a warning shot into the ground. The others bolted. Kellen didn't run, he just looked at me. "You should have stayed quiet, Agent Cole. That's never been my strength." He lunged. We fought in silence, fists and knees and elbows crashing in the shadows. He was strong, trained, but I was fueled by rage. He slammed me into the wall. I kicked his knee sideways. He tackled me to the ground. I jammed a screwdriver from my tool bench into his shoulder. He screamed, then headlights lit up the driveway. SUV, sirens wailing. Kellen slipped into the trees and vanished. We swept the house. The intruders had planted 3 hidden cams, 2 listening devices, and a laptop configured to mimic an HOA violation ticket generator. Julia stared at the screen. "This is how they print the threats." She plugged in a flash drive and started downloading everything. "This is it, Ryan. This proves intent. Fraud, conspiracy, maybe even RICO violations. Then let's end this." Over the next 72 hours, we went full ops mode. Julia got me temporary reinstatement under special authorization. That meant I could use bureau resources, carry officially, and request limited backup. I tracked Kellen's crew, using his blood sample from the screwdriver and the van's traffic cam sightings. They weren't staying in one place, but they had a Hoobin abandoned firehouse 20 miles outside town. That's where we'd make our move. Before the takedown, I saw Maria again. She was packing bags. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know you're trying, but I can't stay. They're too dangerous. For me, for Nico." I nodded. "I understand. But if you run now, they'll find someone else, another neighborhood, another mother." She looked up at me. "I'm scared." I stepped closer. "Me too. But I need your help, Maria. One last time." We used her house as a decoy. Let the cameras roll while I made a show of meeting with her about selling the property. I knew Kellen's network would be watching. The next night, their enforcers hit the decoy house. We were waiting. Julia had mobilized a small tactical unit from a trusted bureau division. Quiet. Off-book. The takedown was clean. No shots fired. 3 men arrested. 1 injured. 1 confessed under pressure. But Kellen wasn't among them. He'd vanished again. Then the real breakthrough came. From the hard drive, Julia extracted a partial ledger lists of properties flagged, families pressured, neighborhoods owned, and bank transfers from shell companies tied to offshore accounts. This wasn't just local corruption, this was organized crime, an HOA extortion empire built on fear and fake authority. We tracked the money to a rural warehouse under a holding company called Golden Hedge Maintenance Services. Inside files, backup laptops, weapon caches, and 7 people held in illegal detainment. 2 were listed in violation and pending asset liquidation. It was human trafficking dressed in suburban HOA camouflage. My stomach turned. We had what we needed now. Julia got full federal warrants. The news wouldn't stay quiet for long, but there was one thing left to do. We found Kellen on a stormy night, holed up in a cabin near the state border. No guards, no exit strategy. Just him and his demons. I went in alone. He was waiting by the fireplace, nursing his arm, the one I stabbed. "You came," he said, not surprised. "I had to. You don't understand, Cole. This country, it's rotting. We're just cleaning up the mess, restoring order. By threatening families, stealing homes, kidnapping people. They gave up their rights the moment they stopped fighting for them." I drew my sidearm. He didn't move. "You know they'll kill me inside," he said. "Men like me don't survive cages. You already live in one." He lunged again, but slower this time. Wounded, tired. I dropped him to the floor. They cuffed him, bleeding and broken. His empire of fear dismantled. His files exposed. And I went home that night. I sat on my back porch with Maria and Nico. He was playing with a brand new bike. She looked over at me. "You saved us." I shook my head. I just reminded them who they were. She smiled. "You're staying. For a while, until the next war. Maybe." But deep down, I knew I'd found something here. Not just redemption, but peace. Even if I had to fight for it. I should have known it wasn't over. Kellen was in custody. His HOA empire dismantled. Maria was safe. Nico smiling again. News outlets called it a miracle. Fake HOA crime syndicate. Busted in federal sting ran the headlines. But real agents know something civilians never do. The head of the snake may be cut off, but the body can still writhe. And in this case, it came back swinging. It started with a phone call. Blocked number, mailvoice.com, controlled. "You should have left it alone, Agent Cole." "Who is this?" Kellen may have led the charge, but he wasn't the only one with plans. Then a click. I traced the call. Untraceable. A burner routed through 4 proxies. But it meant one thing. There was more. Julia and I regrouped. Back at Bureau HQ, she dropped a file on the desk. "Meet Daniel Armitage," she said. Ex-Navi, Intel. The one guy Kellen ever took orders from. He vanished 5 years ago, right after being investigated for embezzling Pentagon black budget funds. What's the connection? She flipped to the next page. He founded the original HOA Restoration Charter, the shell company Kellen expanded into the suburban extortion ring. I leaned back in the chair. So Kellen was just the franchisee. Armitage is the architect. And rumor is, Julia said, he's gone rogue, building something off-grid, bigger, more aggressive. I didn't ask what she meant by bigger. I already knew. The clue came from a hard drive we thought was Klingilia's tech team recovered corrupted GPS data. One location repeated over and over. Highwater Ridge, an isolated mountain retreat, technically outside federal jurisdiction. No signal, no law, no help. Exactly where a man like Armitage would hide. I had one last thing to do before I left. I stopped by Maria's. She was on the porch, watering plants. Nico was asleep. "You're leaving again," she said softly. "Just one more trip. Promise me something." "What's that you'll come back? Not just alive, but whole?" I looked at her, at the bruises fading from her past. "I'll try." Highwater Ridge was a fortress. Gated roads, drone surveillance, ex-military guards posing as rangers. I went in alone, no backup, no badge, only a go bag, a silenced pistol, and a knife tucked into my boot. I slipped past the south trail, under dead pine branches, moving like I did in the border days, quiet and quick. I reached the perimeter just as the storm rolled in. Rain masked my footsteps. Thunder hid the snap of my wire cutters. Inside the compound, I saw it all. A dozen men in tactical gear, laptops wired to routers broadcasting on encrypted channels. And in the center, an old church converted into a command post. That's where I found Armitage. He was taller than I expected. Gray beard, cold eyes, posture like he still wore a uniform. He saw me, didn't flinch. "Cole," he said, as if greeting an old friend. "You knew I'd come." "I was hoping," he said. "Kellen always spoke highly of you." "You built all this?" I asked, gesturing to the compound. "No, I planted the seed, the systems, the disease. I just offered structure, discipline, authority. By stealing homes, kidnapping kids. No, by restoring order. People gave up on law and rules, so we enforced our own." "You're delusional." "Maybe, but tell me you haven't looked around this country and felt the same rage." I raised my weapon. "Game's over." He smiled, then raised his hands. That's when the lights died. Explosion. The church shook as smoke poured through the rafters. Gunfire erupted outside. They knew I was here. This wasn't a one-man op anymore. It was a war zone. I dove through a broken stained glass window as a flashbang rocked the altar. Back outside, I used the storm to my advantage. Fog rolling in, muddy terrain, broken sightlines. I dropped one guard. Two, slid behind a half-burned shed, but there were too many. I was pinned down behind an overturned truck when I heard it. A voice through the comes, "Cole, you didn't think we'd let you do this alone, did you?" Julia's voice. Then, her team hit like thunder. Black SUVs roared in from the north trail. Federal agents spilled out like a flood. Smoke grenades, flashbangs, tactical formation. I surged forward with them. We hit the main lodge. Together, gunfire, screams, glass shattering. The compound crumbled around us. In the end, we found Armitage in the cellar, coughing, bleeding, unarmed. He looked at me like I was death itself. "You can kill me," he said. "But there'll be more." "No," I told him, "not anymore." We brought down the whole network. Recovered files confirmed over 40 neighborhoods across 12 states had been quietly infiltrated by these fake HOA enforcers. People were being extorted, evicted. Some disappeared. Not anymore. The arrests made headlines nationwide. Finally, retired. 2 weeks later, I stood on my front porch, holding a fresh cup of coffee. The sky was clear. The street was quiet. Maria came over with Nico. He handed me a hand-drawn picture. Me, in sunglasses, holding a badge. It said, "Thank you, Agent Cole." I smiled. "Agent Cole doesn't live here anymore," I said. "Just Ryan." "Good," Maria whispered. "Ryan deserves peace." That night, I slept without the Glock under my pillow. No cameras, no patrols, no paranoia. Just Sparrow Lane, and the people worth protecting. And in my mailbox, a small white envelope inside a ticket. Violation, too much noise, penalty. 1 grilled dinner with neighbors. Signed, Maria and Nico, HOA. ***. I laughed for the first time in a long time. Maybe rules weren't so bad after all.